Ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Eisenberg.
The name of the game, right, and we've all heard this premise, time is money, right? We've all heard that? Great. So if time is money, the game we're going to play is called opportunity cost. Here's a page from an actual client site we dealt with that what everybody knew was that 92%, 91.8% exact, of the people who hit this page bounced off of it immediately. They had 13 statisticians. They had a huge staff of web analysts. They had 2 web analytics tools, so it's not the tools, right? I talked about it this morning. They had a multivariate testing platform. They had optimized this page beforehand, but they couldn't get the bump up. I took a look at the page and I called the CEO that same evening. I said, Patrick, all you got to do is change one image. Do me a favor, just change this one image and it'll be great. So great. Can anybody tell me what is it you change on this page to get a success? Now, kids titles. So here's the question. So now we all figured out what it is. How would most people traditionally go about fixing this? They'd go ahead and say, great, you know what? There's about 20 different sections on the page. We're going to create a bunch of different variations and we're going to test it to see which one is actually going to impact the most. And that's what they've been doing for months and months and months with no success. How come overnight we were able to give them, and I'll show you the boost in a minute, such an incredible boost by changing one image? It's because we understood why. It is never about the what. See, what everybody's struggling with today is what I call the infinite monkey theorem. We all know it. Take enough monkeys and take enough typewriters and you recreate Shakespeare. That's the premise of all multivariate optimization. Let's create 1,000,000 variations and something will stick. Marketing technology is amazing and it makes us more efficient. It doesn't understand human behavior though. That's still our responsibility. So how do we solve this? Well, what we need is a blueprint. We need a blueprint to understand how people interact. And what persuasion architecture does for analysts, right, and for marketers is gives us a common ground to describe what are the interactions we're expecting, why they should occur, and when they don't occur, we can point back to it and say, hey, you know what? I was waiting for this room with the vaulted ceilings, and all I got is this pretty low ceiling, right? Something's wrong here. And we can identify it because we've got the blueprint. Without the blueprint, it's a little hard to identify. We're actually trying to look at all the data and figure out what's signal and what's noise. And that's really complicated. So the challenge is, how do we get this blueprint? You don't need to be an expert. The process makes you an expert, okay? So all you need to do is be an expert in the process. So what was the one image? We swapped it that night to search over 24,000 DVD and VHS movies. That one image accounted for a 5% lift in sales overall. They were a $480 million company. Every day that they didn't fix this image cost them $70,000. How many of you, if you knew that you had these type of holes on your site, would be working feverishly to fix them all? But we do. That's the problem. What we know is that every single site out there, right? Jim talked about it. Web surfing sucks. The internet still sucks. In many ways. It's a crime, and it's a terrible crime. And it doesn't take any genius analyst to figure out there's a crime going on, right? We see a body, something went wrong. It takes a certain level of reporting, right, to identify whether this was a murder or suicide. But that's still reporting. Analysis happens, right, when you're able to say, oh, he was killed by his brother's stepsister's cousin's neighbor who works with his uncle who's related to Colonel Mustard who killed somebody in the kitchen with a candlestick. That's analysis. It's the understanding of why. Right? Think about this. How many people have seen CSI? Right? How do they solve crime? Right? Interactive crime solving. What do? They go ahead and they bring models back into the labs to try to figure out what actually happened. Now, how many of your companies will allow you to create little models on the side to figure things out? Not very likely. So what you need to do is build in the model up front. Because there's assumptions that we can take about the variables that cause people to take action that we can monitor, measure, and improve on constantly. And that's all that persuasion architecture is about. And so everybody asks me, and everyone's outstanding when they see some of the results we get, and it's not because we're that smart. Because we're not. All we did is ask a different question. Anyone want to know why we decided to ask a different question? How many of you have met my brother Jeffrey? Okay. Jeffrey and I, let me explain this best way. We're temporarily motivated to be permanently lazy. And so we created a process so that we can have other people doing it because we didn't want to anymore. Okay? We've been doing this for over 10 years, just optimizing marketing on websites, nonstop, nonstop, nonstop. We've seen more tests. We were talking about it before with Bob, right? I've been doing tests for 10 years. I can show you stupid tests you couldn't even dream of, okay? And they had stupid impacts. But the impacts gave us learnings. And we've used all those learnings to build a system that was duplicatable, so every single time you can get better results. The challenge is, how can we do that? Because we all know that we're all trying to gain great results on the web, but we're not necessarily gaining them. What do I mean by that? Take a look at average conversion rates. This is according to shop.org, and I'm going to stick on retail numbers now because they're the most measurable and most accountable at this point, right? But if you look at conversion rates from 2002 to 2005, okay, they haven't been going up. Barely a change in standard deviation, right? So now think about this. Have websites been better designed since 2002 to today? Are they better designed? Do we have better technology, right? We have more broadband users. We have more people ready to put their credit card online. People are visiting less sites than they ever did before. In 2002, they were visiting an average of 11 websites. Today, they're visiting an average of 7. People have been looking at the problem the wrong way. What's happened is, we all know marketing and customers have changed in the last few years. Most marketing efforts haven't. Let me explain to you. Let's start first with the concept of the funnel. We all think about the funnel. We all talk about the funnel. And the biggest flaw of the funnel is the laws of physics. What is a funnel? You take liquid, you pour it in the funnel, what happens? What's the force that pulls things out of a funnel? Gravity. And so what happens is, as marketers, as business people, we think of people leaving our funnel as gravity pulling them out. Doesn't work that way. What happens is 97.6% of the customers who didn't buy from you had an experience. And they left, as my good friend Jim Novo likes to explain, because of friction. We come online because of convenience, because of better prices, because of all of these things that help us reduce friction. But yet we fall out of the funnel because of the friction. And the friction is created by the business processes we deal with every single day. We cause friction. Okay? The customers want an easy experience. We don't give it to them. And I'm going to show you a number of ways why we don't give them great experiences. Because we haven't really thought about how people buy online. That psychology is very different than ever before. So let's talk about the funnel a little bit. I'm going to totally flip the funnel on you in a minute. We've always thought of the funnel in 2 parts. There's the conversion part. That's the part that has to make sure that everybody can complete the purchase, right? But the top part of the funnel, where the big gains are to be had, is the persuasion aspects. It's what makes people want to go through the funnel. If you haven't persuaded them that they really want this, they're not going to end up at the bottom. How many of you have bought from a site that really sucked before? Why? We saw something we wanted, we desired it, and we went through the funnel, whatever that funnel was.